What is up, Ask Us Why Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Vessels Podcast, brought to you by Ask Us Why and Ask Us Where Christian Apparel. My name is Jeremy, and I'm your host. And if you've never been with us before, we just want to say what's up. We hope you guys love this podcast, and we hope that you guys join the fam. And if you've never been with us before, this podcast is basically centered around me and my good friends Christian, Connor, and Allie, where we host a round table style discussion talking about everything faith and how to navigate living in the crazy world that we live in from a biblical perspective and a biblical worldview. We hope you guys love this podcast. If you do, we'd love it if you shared it or if you left a review for us. It really helps with getting the content to more people that we can impact. And if you want to support us in other ways, you can always head to our shop and buy something from there at askuswhyshop.com. We love you guys, and let's jump right into this episode. What is up, brothers and sisters? Ask Us Nation. We are live back in the Lion's Den with my good friends Christian, Connor, and Allie.
What's up, guys?
How we doing today, folks?
All right.
Fantastic. What's wrong, Allie?
What?
Nothing.
Spit it out.
I almost did. I almost spit out my water.
Okay.
Laughing so hard.
About what?
Why are you laughing?
How you guys have your headphones on?
Like what? What do you mean?
What is she talking about?
It's
I have no idea.
revolutionary.
What is revolutionary?
I don't
Brah,
see.
she tripping.
I don't see what she's talking about.
She tripping. What you put in your coffee this morning, huh?
I'm not going to disclaim that on the podcast. I'm just kidding.
Being weird. Guys, what's the vine of the day?
I can't take you seriously with your headphones like
It's,
that.
I still don't know what she's talking about.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday, Raven.
I can't swim.
I can't swing.
All right. Breaking character.
I can't see what she's talking about.
Could you speak up? I can't see. What'd you say the vine of the day was?
Happy birthday, Raven.
I
I
can't
can't
swing.
swim. Happy birthday, Raven!
I can't swim.
That's good. I like that.
All right. That's good. That's good. That's good. We feeling good today, guys? Feeling good? Feeling alive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm alive.
I'm pretty stoked because it's that season of life where summer is around the corner, which means
Oh, no.
we got students graduating,
Yeah.
including college students.
Oh.
Including
No way.
Allie.
That's me.
I was gonna say world champion, but I can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
froze.
technically, you still can legally.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Alyssa still hasn't changed her name either, so she's still
Oh.
Houston.
For sure. Yeah. That happens. I mean, the process to change your last name for
It's
anyone
not
who
that
doesn't
long.
know. Oh, okay.
We have brides that we've shot weddings for that have already done it.
Okay.
Yep.
Isn't it kind of a pain, though?
No, I mean, like, kind of, but you can also, like, there's websites that'll do it all for you.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, welcome to the 21st century of the internet. You can do everything.
Chris's
from
like,
your
anybody
computer.
want to take my last name?
And they take
Pretty
us
easy,
out there.
apparently.
Oh, man, guys, we are going to be talking about college and what it's like to graduate it. Tell me all about it. I'm so curious. Allie, you're irrelevant to this
I was going
conversation.
to say I have no opinions, comments, or concerns at this time.
I'm glad you have no concerns at this time. But you're about to graduate, so you got all the feels.
Right.
You're pretty much there.
You're probably the best one to speak to
Screaming,
this.
crying.
right?
One of.
Perfect
Yeah.
storms.
You're like right in the middle of it.
Rose
What's it
garden,
like right now for
perfect
you?
thorns.
How do you feel?
Yeah. Tell me all about how you feel.
Well, I feel
It's like her love language.
That's a bad question.
Yeah. She's like all the emotions and thoughts are just flooding,
like-
and she's like, I've been given access. Unloading.
It's like access
Permission
granted.
well.
No, feeling pretty good. I feel like it's like weird because ever since I got married or we got married, there's like this feeling of like that's what like obviously consumes my life. Like I'm a wife every day. Student is like, ugh, who cares at this point? So like it's hard when people are like, you're graduating. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a really big deal, huh? Right, because it's just like not on my thoughts. Like being married is just like my number one.
That's super relatable.
But I'm like super excited to graduate. It's just like hasn't like in full transparency, I haven't processed the fact that like I won't have to do another DQ or another essay or like
That'll preach.
yeah, or use, you know,
APA format.
Yeah, anything
Oh.
ever again.
Ugh.
The worst, dude.
School.
Appa. Appa format.
But I'm like very excited to be done, and like obviously it's gonna be different because Connor and I live on campus, so I feel like that also plays a role in feeling like I'm not actually done or gone, because like we don't like leave. But it'll be weird not going to class, like not having like a set like class schedule and like sitting by people that are my age. Like now I'm gonna be working a job where people are all different ages, so it's just gonna be different. But I'm excited. I like school, but I'm done with school.
Yeah, and it sucks that you have to live on it after you're done.
The worst.
Think about it.
Who did that?
It's like being in prison for 4 years and then you graduate prison and then you still live in prison.
I live across the street from prison. I'm on prison all the time. I mean
We're
campus.
just going to replace the word college with prison.
Prison.
That was prison.
This is prison.
Allie, you're about to finish your sentence.
Yeah.
My life's exciting. Connor, you've already finished your sentence. Christian, you finished your sentence.
Yeah, recently.
And for all those that didn't know, I actually technically never finished my sentence. I escaped.
They're like, you're good to go.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, Connor, Christian,
What's it like to get a diploma? What's it like to walk?
Hey, technically I was supposed to walk, but COVID canceled it. So that was the year where they all walked down Lopes Way. But I was like, I'm not trying to smell the sewers of Panda Express. I'm not walking that. Down that. No way, bro. So I could have walked, but I still didn't. I was supposed to test out, didn't. So now I'm just living life as a rebel, living life on the edge.
Yeah.
Just
As
like
an ex-convict.
ex-convict. Still wanted.
Got out of
GC
prison.
reaches out to me a lot. Like, you sure you don't want to finish this? You sure you don't want to pay more money for us to get you a piece of paper? You sure? So anyways, what's it like for you guys having been graduated? Was it everything you guys imagined and dreamed and thought of?
I was like kind of whatever about it.
So Connor?
Yeah.
I'll carry on.
I don't know. I think GCU is a unique college experience in that the education is easier. For me, it was easier than high school. And
Interesting.
I think part of that is like the workload and the classes and my major and stuff like that. And so, yeah, so it didn't like it was like a huge accomplishment. It didn't feel like this crazy, like life transforming thing because I was already like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I was out the door. I was ready to get going with life and do life things. So it was really cool to graduate. But man, I was ready. I was stoked to graduate.
Yeah. I feel like
So it could be
something
done.
so weird about college too is like high school you graduate and like you know everyone pretty much. And like you all did the same thing. Like predominantly everyone had the exact same classes, same 5 teachers, whatever. So graduation is like so much more sentimental of like, guys,
Yeah.
we did it.
Yeah.
And then college, you're like, all right, I know 4 of you out of the 400 sitting here.
Yeah.
And it's so much less personable. Like
Yeah.
you go up there and it's like, all right, before they even say Allison Champion, they're already on to the next person.
Yeah.
So it's just like a different, it's not as sentimental. And also it's like, okay, everyone has a job pretty much. Or they're about to get, like, it's just a different headspace of like, okay, we're adults and now we have to sit here and get dressed up and walk. Like it almost feels like it's not enough. But then it's just, it's so weird. But I know what you're talking about. Like, I've thought about that, like having to go to graduation and sit by 3 people that I know, but I don't know anyone else in there.
Yeah.
Nor did we take the same classes because there's different minors and emphases and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
I would just like to place emphasis on how Allie said emphasis. That's funny.
And I think the weight of like life after school, like really you start to feel that pressure while you're just coming to the end of it. And so high school is like this huge relief, like, oh, like done, go into summer, and then I'll go to college and it's going to be this new exciting adventure.
Right.
And then you graduate college and it's like, oh, this new exciting adventure is literally permanent for the rest of my entire life. You know, I mean,
You're causing me to get depressed over here.
no, that's, I mean, you can
tough.
get different jobs and
Right.
really love the job that you're going for. That's been my experience. I love what I'm doing. But a lot of people, they go into this 9 to 5 that sucks the soul out of them. And so,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of the reality because either they they were complacent while they were in college and they weren't intentional about certain things or this, that, or the other, but there's always room to grow and pivot the path that you're on. Now that I've graduated school, I don't really have any debt, and I'm really like free bird. Like I can kind of do whatever I want now that I have the degree and I'm done with school. It's like, okay, like all of a sudden there's a tremendous amount of freedom. Like there was a path for my life all the way leading up to the end. And then I graduated and it's like, okay, now you have to choose what you're going to do. Yeah, you choose your major, but they still give you the courses and the time to show up to class and everything. And now there's like, well, there's so much to do, so much to choose. And now I have to choose the activities in life that I do that dictates the friendships that I have now, which is very interesting, right? Because you could sign up for working for CAB or doing Discover or doing intramurals, and you got to like kind of choose your friendships via that path. And now it's like you have to create settings and put yourself in environments to develop and foster and maintain those relationships now.
Right.
There's such a different aspect to friends and dating and marriage and everything. It's just different, but you can look at it and be like, oh no, like this is not good. Or you can look at it as like, man, what an awesome opportunity to explore the freedom that God has for us and live life and have fun,
So was it worth it for you guys after going to college, looking back on it?
I think that answer to that will be different for literally every person. But for me, like, oh wow, look at that. For me, 100%. Like, I have like 90% of, what I have now is not thanks to GCU, but like,
Thanks to GCU.
it played a huge role, because like I wouldn't have met Allie and I wouldn't have my job now, I wouldn't have made so many friendships, like lasting relationships with people, and I wouldn't have learned, not even just things like from school, but things about how to be a better man and all of these things. And there's 100% people who have a totally opposite experience for whatever reason, with any college. And it can leave a bad taste in your mouth. But I think it's a good thing that it's like, such a transition, like after school, like when you graduate, like hopefully you've learned, and obviously you can't know everything that you hope to know, like from college, like leaving it. But hopefully you've learned some things, especially if you're a believer, about how to transition out of that season of your life and how to begin a new one. And I think that it's really important to think about those things, before you're transitioning in that way. Like you don't want to just not think about what you're going to do after you graduate. And obviously you have all of these family members and friends asking you all the time, like, at different things. Like I'm sure like this weekend at Easter, everybody's going to be asking Allie, like, hey, what are you doing after you graduate? And like at some point that question gets really annoying. At least it did for me. But like there's a reason why people are asking it, and it's important as well. So I think it's healthy to think that way, but it's also healthy to like want to enjoy your graduation and want to, kind of get the last thing that you can out of school, out of college, because it's also a big deal that you've completed that. And I think it's cause for celebration.
And I feel like that's what's hard when people ask me that. Like no one means to offend, and they obviously don't know. Typically they're asking to be asked back, or they just genuinely kind of want to know what you're up to. But I feel like me personally, when people are like, oh, what are you doing after college? I look at them and I'm like, I got married. What do you mean? Like, I don't, like, it's almost like that wasn't enough. They're like, now what? Now you're a wife? Okay. And it's like, that's a huge accomplishment to me. Like I found the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with and grow God's kingdom with. Like, why do you want me to do the next thing? But that's just like proof. Like people, it's just next. No one's ever just like sitting in that and enjoying that season. Like, so what if I wanted to take a time off and just like, everyone's like, are you going to get your master's? And I'm like, even if I was, I'm not thinking about that right now. Like I just got married. I want to enjoy at least a year of that before I sign up for school. Like I want to know what marriage is like without school. I don't know what it's like yet. But yeah, that's just my hot take.
I feel, yeah, but I would counter that and say that I think people just ask that because that's just like the question to ask when someone's graduating. And it's just a spark conversation. It's less of like, oh, I have an expectation that you need to do more with your life. So I'm going to ask. And if you don't answer the proper way.
Well,
then, like, I'm gonna
regardless of
see
how
you
they
wrong.
mean it to come off, how I interpret it is how I interpret it. Like, I feel like, yeah, no, like I said, no one means to offend. No one means to hurt.
Yeah.
But it can come off like, yeah, you just got married, but like, now tell me what you're doing. Like, it doesn't feel like they recognize that that's a huge step. But like, again, I know people don't intentionally say those things to knock me down or make me feel that way. It just, that is so interesting. Instead of saying, hey, how's marriage? That's so cool. Got married. Are you excited to graduate? Like, people should ask more, how are you feeling about graduation? And less of what are you doing? Because it belittles, well, I'm graduating. That's what I'm doing. I'm graduating 4 years, 16 years, if you want to, of school. Done. That's a big deal, you know?
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So, I mean, for a lot of us, we came into college with expectations of what it was going to look like. Do you guys feel like it leveled to those expectations? Did it surpass them, or did it not live up to them? Or what do you guys think?
Oh my God. You guys. My college experience was crazy. Like I went into school, I mean, I went to super small Christian college in Oklahoma for a year and played soccer, and it was really cool. And my experience at that school could not be any different from my experience at GCU. So I went there, then I guess I kind of dropped out of college, had a gap year, and then went to GCU. And GCU, like in my mind, like I wanted to develop community, grow with like-minded believers, and grow my faith. That was like my main objective. And it like far exceeded my expectations for what that would look like because of and it might be unique to GCU, like the type of community that is here. I'm sure there's other Christian colleges that have foster similar experiences, but like the community I met here and was involved with and became friends with here, like far exceeded my expectations or what I even knew was possible for a college experience. And a lot of that has to do with like how much effort I put into it in fostering that and being a part of those communities. And another part is just like GCU in particular, like having an environment where that's a possibility, you know. And it took me a really long time to even gain traction on that. Like for a long time, I was like really defeated in not growing those relationships that I was hoping for. But once it did, it was awesome.
I concur.
Excellent.
300%. It's what you put in is what you get out. So I have friends that went to ASU, U of A, other colleges, and like they're bigger colleges, and it's not like GCU, so you're not getting the experience of, you know, having the gathering every Tuesday, a life group, and like all these different things. And even like on your dorm, like most of the guys in like public colleges, they're not the same as like what GCU is for the most part. So you don't really land community as easy. And so it can be super, especially with like the student size for a lot of those colleges, you could just pass by people and never be seen. And so unless like you find ways to get involved with the school, more often than not, you kind of land a small community, but it almost feels like, I mean, it would have felt like for me when I moved high schools, because it's kind of the same thing. You just get like a small clique, hang with the same people every single time. You don't really expand that community and do other things. So yeah, I agree. This isn't as like cookie cutter as we might think when it comes to how college was. Did it live up to the expectations, and like what the overall experience was like, because it all factors into like what we chose to put into it and how that came out. Do you guys feel though that you guys are for Allie, because you're graduating, Connor, Christian, did you guys feel prepared for the world coming out of college though? Like, is that something you guys, Allie, is that something you feel prepared about? Connor, is that something you did feel? Christian, like, was that, like, do you think college did an adequate job of that? Or do you think that college served a different purpose and that you still had to figure some of those things out?
Yeah, I think college does. That's not the main, I think, priority of going to college is preparing you for the outside world, or like after that. And I think especially with GCU, it can be a big difference, a big, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but big change of being like, it's almost like for 4 years, like at GCU, you can kind of like compare it to like being homeschooled in a way of like, it's a closed campus, it's a close Christian community. And like the world outside is not necessarily like it is like on the GCU campus.
Yeah.
And so it can be really hard, I think, for people when they get out of that and how they deal with it, and how it's like, oh, well, I can't just go to the, life group every Wednesday anymore, and I can't just go to chapel every Monday morning, and there's no longer like these basketball games and stuff I can do, or CGs and all this stuff. And it's like, I wish we did a better job of, preparing students for that life afterwards. And, part of it is obviously on the person. Like, have you created relationships that are going to last outside of just, oh, this is convenient for me because we're on the same campus. And it's like, I know so many people who, even that I was friends with, where it's like, we don't talk to each other anymore because, it's just like, oh, I could see you whenever I wanted because I could just go over to your apartment or go over to your dorm when we were at GCU. And now it's like, okay, is your relationship strong enough with that person to be like, I'm going to drive half an hour or whatever, like after work, to go see you, to go make time to be with you. And it's like, are you making those relationships now? Because the convenient friendships aren't going to last necessarily after you get out of school. And you're not going to be able to see all these people 4 or 5 times a week because you're sharing the same campus. And so, like, prepare yourself now, obviously. Like, that's why we think it's so important. We talk about all the time with community on the podcast. It's like, if you're not building that now, or you haven't, like, start doing it now, because it's going to be even harder after everybody has transitioned out of that season of their life.
Mm-hmm. Allie, do you feel like you're prepared?
I feel like I'm with Connor. Like, I wouldn't say that GCU necessarily prepared me for the outside world. I feel like there are some degrees that would disagree. Like nursing, you get a job right out of it, or you fail. But typically they have you set up to where you'll get a job in a hospital. Or teachers, right? You do practicum, then all of a sudden you're a 4th grade teacher, like just like you wanted. They're like your fairy godmother, if you will. But for the rest of us majors, we don't get a guaranteed job, which is really tough. You still have to prove and, really try at those jobs. And I feel like the likelihood of you getting one is less, which is not like, I'm not bashing that. I feel like that's really cool for those majors. But for the rest of us, it can be a little bit like discouraging. That all these teachers are like, well, I'm a teacher. And I'm like, well, then how come I didn't get a job in a psychology department? Like, what? But you can't compare the two. It's just kind of like how that works. Also, there's a greater need for teachers than there is for someone in behavioral health. But I wouldn't necessarily say they prepared me just because I didn't get a job in psychology. But I also wouldn't say that they left me out in the dust either. I met a lot of cool people, including professors, that can help me out in like my walk of trying to like be in the world of psychology. But I feel like they prepared me in a different way of like how to love people that are different than me. Because I didn't really know what that was like, going to a Christian school and having only Christians around me. They helped me know how to build a community on my own, not just like join in one. So they prepared me in a different way than like, I guess, what other people might expect. But I would say that they did, but also like didn't, if that makes any sense.
Correct me if I'm wrong too. Just having a degree in psychology in like that realm, like doesn't mean a lot to like firms and places and practices that are looking for someone. Like having a master's in like psychology or pursuing something that's more than that in the education realm is what really gets you into those positions. Because that's what I heard in my psychology class is like, you can learn and like get a degree in it, but more often than not in this field, they want to see that you're going after like a master's or a doctorate or something of that sort and that kind of stuff. So like that also makes it harder to get out of college and like feel that you're ready to like start taking on the world, because more often than not they're like, you need more education or you need to like to do more in that way. And that's like a lot of jobs too, where like you can get a business degree, but like if you want to get your MBA, like you're probably going to be guaranteed a higher paying job and you're going to get a higher position especially if you go for the master's and you land an internship and do all those steps and stuff. But like, that's not every single student out here that's, you know, trying to pursue that path. And that's like someone like me is I went for the hardest degree that they have at GCU.
Second hardest behind Christian studies.
Second hardest behind Christian studies. I went to school for communications. Still failed it. I'm just kidding. But there's nothing that they give you where they're like, yeah, you're guaranteed a job right out of college. You know, we got this place lined up for you. If you just, you know, get the degree, you're good to go. They don't have that, but obviously you can try and get involved with like a business, get into like an internship program, use that either on your resume or hopefully by the end of the internship program, they offer you a job, but you're not ever guaranteed it. And so that can be really frustrating, especially when you've given like 4 years, 3 to 4 years, 5 years, depending on your time frame to college, and then you get out of it and you're not necessarily guaranteed the job. And I think that's kind of a big topic of discussion today is like, is it even worth to go to college? Which I don't think is the topic of this discussion. But because obviously the season of this is people that are finishing college, not thinking about if they're going to start going to college. Maybe, I don't know when you listen to this, but as far as like getting out of college and getting a job, I also agree that it's not designed to teach you how to pay your bills, how to handle your finance. I mean, it also depends on your degree, because if you probably went to school for finances, you probably know how to handle your finances better than someone who, you know, went to school for communications like me. So it depends on the degree, but for the most part, a lot of the aspects of life of having an apartment or getting a place, having to pay rent, having to pay bills, insurance, all those kind of things. Usually at GCU, you or whatever college you go to, you get a loan or you just make a monthly payment, which kind of works the same way. But for the majority of students, they get a loan and it pays for all of it. And you don't have to worry about all that up front. So you live on campus, food's paid for, all those kind of things. Maybe you get a job, maybe you don't. But then you get out of college and then all of a sudden now some of these students are piling up somewhere upwards of like 600 or 6 figures of debt, like being in like $100,000 of debt. And that can suck because then you have to start planning like, well, like I have to pay this off. So there's so many different aspects when you get out of college that you don't necessarily think about when you're in like your sophomore year or your junior year until you get to your senior year, where you have to start thinking about what's going to happen next and what your next steps are for like navigating life. And so I think that for me personally, I think I learned probably more during college from external sources than I did from in college. I think the podcasts that I listened to, the books that I read, the people that I met and talked with and learned from, courses that I would take online, YouTube University, like all of those things, I think for me and my personal experience taught me more than my degree did, which I think set me up for better success. But obviously that's like not the case for every single student that does the same thing that I do. But I feel like that kind of sucks. Like, do you guys feel like colleges should take on more responsibility to like educate and teach young adults how to like actually work in the world? Like, you think like there's like an adulting 101 kind of class that needs to exist where it's like, hey, here's how you should handle your finances to a basic degree. Because obviously once you get a little bit farther into it, there's a lot of different opinions about it, but there's like a general principle of how you should work through it. And then things like how do you pay your taxes and like what does it look like if you want to buy a home and all those kind of things. Do you feel like colleges should do that, or do you think that that's something that isn't on them and we just need to get better about how we prepare, like I would say high school students going into college, like teaching them that mindset that it's not going to do this for you, but here's how like you can find resources to help with that?
I mean, I took a couple classes that did prepare me for stuff, right? Like the first school I went to, I took this class. It was like, it wasn't university success, but it was one of those super basic ones. Or it was like finance 101, right? And they went through, you know, taxes and budgets and things like that. And I had an accounting class at GCU. I feel like a lot of people are supposed to take that ran through the basics of accounting things. So I feel like my classes did kind of cover my bases, but they were so early into my college experience that now 2 or 3 years later after I took the classes, I don't actually remember what I learned from those, like maybe some super basic things. And now it's like, okay, like I actually do, like those things I learned were important, but not at the time that I learned them. Not to the degree that they are now. And you know, like being in post graduation, like there are so many resources that tell you exactly what you need to do and how you need to do it for all of those like adulting things. There's literally apps that you can download on your phone. There might be a monthly fee or something that literally tells you, what's your question? Do you want to know how to do your taxes? Do you want to know how to budget? Do you want to know how to do this? Like if you just look it up, there are genius people who have created very, very basic, simple, easy to use things that teach you those sorts of things. And so my take is that college they shouldn't have to worry about that. They shouldn't have to teach you how to do your taxes because it's not really degree specific, right? And I think that there's people in your life college should educate you on like the implications of going into debt, right? Like maybe there should be more responsibility about those sorts of things. Like I don't think students realize like what the consequences of that really is. But at the same time, like why would the college want to teach you? How would they be incentivized to teach their students when they're getting paid off of that, you know? So that's maybe something that we should, you know, teach in the church to high school students and stuff, you know.
My only counter with that is that high school and college are the two major institutions where the majority of people attend. Once you get out of those things, you're in the world doing whatever else and whatever you consume on your phone and through media. And so that's where, like, you could say, sure, like it's not college's responsibility or it's not high school's responsibility to do those things, but like our country sucks. Like,
now, I'm just saying college specifically. High school would be awesome if they had a course on why not to go into debt or things like that.
I guess that could be done if you do it in the right way. But I would also say counter to that when you took the classes freshman year, you don't remember any of those things now. So like if a student takes some stuff like maybe their senior year of high school, are they going to remember all those things continually? Or is that, you know, maybe it is. I don't know.
And I guess what I'm thinking is just in reference specifically to like why go to college and why get into debt,
right.
You know, like
100%.
that avenue, you know?
Yeah.
I think that college and high school and university could always do better, but it's also like, if that's not there now, like that's not your excuse to be like bad at those things or not be educated on how to do those things. Because I mean, I would first be like, okay, who are you? Like, who's in your life now that you're able to ask questions to that like has been through those things and knows how to do those things? And I like totally wish I would have asked my mom like more questions about those things, like when I was in high school or when I was growing up. Even now, like I'm like, oh, why didn't I listen to like what you were doing? Like as a single mom, like how to do all of those things, like taxes. And now I feel like, you know, I'm like, I missed out on so much information and so many lessons that would have been helpful. But it's also like I feel like the church can be a great avenue for those things too. Like, are you involved with older, wiser people in your life that like through your church or through a group or anything like that you're able to ask questions to about the things that are like, you know, scary in a way, especially when like nobody's taught you those things. And so like, I just don't want to use like, oh, well, they're not teaching me a class or I didn't take a class like that as like an excuse to be like, now I don't know those things and it's this person's fault, you know?
Well, also like just to help college out here, like the statement, like, did college prepare you for the future or prepare you for success? I feel like it's tough because everyone measures success differently. So it's like, to me, I'm like, I got married, done, did it, see you later. Like that was what I've wanted my whole life.
I failed miserably.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if everyone
completely unsuccessful.
Retry, do it again.
I should get my master's. I don't know.
Must have picked the wrong college. Sorry, carry on, Allie. I thought that was funny.
Anywho, no, but like if everyone measured it the same way I did, like in retrospect, then Christian would have failed.
Yeah.
But also like if everyone measured it like to Connor's perspective of like, did you get a job and you don't have to pay for anything, like whatever. Yay, Connor wins. Like it's like, but that's not how I measured it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a really hard statement to make, or like to be mad at them because it's like, well, GCU didn't get your resume of what you wanted before you left. And actually, if you cared that much, GCU actually has a whole building dedicated to you and what you need. So it's like, it's hard for me to believe that you are mad at a college because they didn't set you up right, when it's like, well, you didn't set yourself up right. Like, yeah, I agree. Like I too don't have a job in psychology. Bummer, but I'm married. So I think I'll make it. I think I'll survive. Like it's like, but that's how I measured like my happiness of, okay, well, I have a job, gotta make money. I also get to come home to this every night. Okay, like life's good.
Pop off.
But some people are
Scrubbing
like,
the floors. Like a
but
good
some
boy.
people don't measure it that way. Like they want to have that 9 to 5 with what they went to school for. And if they don't have that, they failed. So it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like in my heart, that's like a really hard judgment call to make because GC wasn't catered or made for you specifically.
Yeah.
And that's a very selfish
Totally.
like claim to make against them. But I also
100%.
get it because you make a lot of money. They stole from you.
I agree. I think that the question was specifically for just for each of us and how we measure success, not the universal statement of is college worth it based off of this measure of success? Because it can be different for every single person. But at the end of the day, again, you're paying a lot of money to this institution for what you could also do outside of it. Because I met a lot of people that did not go to college and are thriving and have the community, have, good structure in their life, are married, do those things. And then I have other people that went to college and have the exact same thing. So you can still get the same outcome going each way. It's just a matter of like, is it worth the investment of it? Because there's a lot of students that go to college, get like $80,000 worth of debt and look back and be like, why did I go to college? But you ask the people that get $80,000 in debt and they're like, I am so glad that I went to college because it got them the job, it got them whatever the experiences that they desired, those kind of things. So it really is different for every single person. But
yeah, none of us in this room can make that call. That's person by
Well,
person.
and it's like, I don't know, like I got a degree in Christian studies, but it's like I'm not working at a church right now. Like I'm working at GCU, but that doesn't mean I wasn't successful or like that the Lord didn't have me go to GCU and, learn all these different things and make these relationships because, at the end of the day, like my goal wasn't necessarily to work for a church after when I was going to GCU for Christian studies, I wasn't going to be like, I want to do this specific thing in this specific place, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you have that desire. But it's like now I'm working at GCU and I'm like working with, Res Life and with college students, which is like still like there's so many opportunities for me every single day to make a difference, like for eternity, which I think is in a way like as Christians how we should more so measure the success of like, is this thing worth it? It's like, okay, did you have opportunities while you were there to make a difference like in the lives of people for Christ and for eternity? And like, did it set you up in whatever way, like in whatever occupation or place for you to continue doing that in a way that maybe you didn't think before you started?
So what if someone is in the position right now where they're about to get out of college and they feel like they didn't get any of those things and now they're stuck with graduating, having a ton of debt and didn't feel like they got anything out of it? Well,
I think the worst thing you can do is let that continue to be the case. Like, it's like, okay, maybe you didn't get exactly what you were hoping for out of school. Maybe you didn't have all the relationships or you didn't have the job that like set up after you were graduating. But it's like, okay, what do you do now is like the bigger question. And it's like, are you going to lay down and complain about it? Which would obviously be the wrong answer. Not saying that you can't be upset about it. And there's could be some people that hurt you along the way, but it's like, as a Christian, like, how are you going to move forward to seek those opportunities that the Holy Spirit's providing you, wherever that may be. But don't be the person that points the finger and blames whoever for the reasons why, you feel like you weren't successful or you feel like it wasn't worth it.
Well, and we could do that all day long, that comparison game of like me to someone else or whoever to whoever of like, well, I went to college and I have all this and I'm going to get this job. And then the person who like didn't go, but has like a job now and is successful and has a house and has money and like whatever. But that game you're going to lose. Both of you will lose at the end of the day, because to compare is to despair. Like it's going to lead you to disparity. And it's just not, like, you're right. Like, don't sit in that. But also, like, we're not saying you can't be upset and frustrated. I would be too. It's a ton of money. Believe me, I also have debt. So like, it is a big deal and it sucks. But if I lived and died on the rock of like, dang, I should have just not gone, then I'm going to be unhappy the rest of my life. And that's not fair to me, to Connor, to my family, friends, nobody. So.
I concur.
Agreed.
Agreed. So for anyone that's like graduating college and is moving on to the next stage of life, what's a piece of advice that you guys could give to them on like a next step? Allie, I want you to go first. What do you guys think is a good first step of action or course of action for someone that doesn't know what to do next? Maybe they're about to go home, move back home with their family, be for a little bit. Maybe they got a place with some friends here. What's the next thing?
As a believer, like, obviously you can look to like Genesis 3 and the fall and be like, okay, I can, like, how work is not necessarily supposed to be easy anymore, like it was like designed to be, and how it will be, like, when Jesus returns. But because you can, like, me and Christian, like, we love our jobs. Remy, you love your job, and that's a blessing. Like, that's great. But at the same time, it's like, that doesn't mean there aren't things that you maybe don't like about your job, or things that are hard about your job. Like, there's stuff every single day, like, in my position, where it's like, why? Like, I just ask the question, like, why do people do this? Or like, what, like, it's not easy. And so I would say there's going to be opportunities. And I think the opportunities for you to, like, either have a job that maybe, like, wasn't something that you were looking for. Like, one of my RAs, he got offered a job at a place where he, wasn't necessarily looking for. And it wasn't something that was really something that, like, he would love, something that, like, sounded fun to him. And obviously, best case scenario, you find something right off the bat that is fun, that is something you're looking for. But at the same time, like, that doesn't mean that God isn't necessarily calling you to that place to be a light on a hill, like, for those people. And so, I don't know. I think sometimes we can just have a upside down view of, like, where we're called to be, like, occupation wise as Christians. Like, the Lord has only called us to something that we prefer, that's something that we like every single day, and it's not going to be hard, which isn't like realistic, like, in this world. And so there might be jobs that you get offered to, or things that you get placed in, where you, like, maybe don't like the people around you, or you don't like the things that you do every single day. And that doesn't mean that you have to complain about it. Like, you can still make a difference there for eternity. And so my advice is that, like, wherever you feel like you can make a difference, like, choose that, even if it's like, oh, you're just going to work at a desk, in an office every single day. Because the Lord can still work through that.
Yeah. Christian?
Great. I would say that now that you're graduating, it's time to take extreme ownership for your life. All of the decisions that you have made in your life have led you up to this point and where you are now. And if you are unsatisfied with that, then it's also up to you to make the decisions and do the things that you need to do to be satisfied. So the job opportunities that are available to you, what you've learned, the friendships you have, everything is a result of the decisions that you made. Obviously, what you want to do moving forward is be in God's will and be obedient to the Holy Spirit and what the Lord is leading you to and guiding you to in your life. And it's, that might be hard, might be really difficult. It might be like, oh, like, I see a clear path here. It might be like, I have no idea what's next. But either way, like, you just need to start taking action. And you have, if you went to college and you're like, man, I got nothing out of this, that's not true. Like, you got a lot more out of it than you think. And the same thing comes for when people are building their resume. They're like, oh, like, I don't really have experience in what I'm thinking of, but there are very creative ways to craft a resume out of experiences that you've had in your life. They're like, oh, oh yeah, like I forgot that I did that, and that's actually really applicable to this area or that. So I mean, I think something that would be huge for people is to search for the people who have the life that they are looking for, or the job that they're looking for, the community that they're looking for, and ask them to coffee and be like, hey man, this is where I'm at. I just graduated college. I don't feel like I got the experience that I needed, or I don't feel like I got the right degree for what I actually want to do now. Like I got the opposite degree of what I actually wanted to do. What are the steps that you would take, or what is the advice that you would give me in order that I do that thing? And listen to them and do what they say and try it out. You know, people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. So don't put like this timeline on like, oh, like if I'm not here by this time, like the world's over. You know, look back on the past 4 or 5 years of your life and think about how far you've come. And in another 4 or 5 years, you're still going to be in your 20s. And you have a lot of flexibility and freedom to make decisions that dramatically change your life. And so it's exciting. And don't get discouraged in the fact that maybe you've made decisions that weren't productive or weren't, conducive to where you want to be. But you can do that now. And there's freedom in that. You can have fun, and you can do it to the glory of the Lord.
Mic drop. Love it. Yeah, I stand behind all those things you said. I think that 90% of people that graduate are trying to find a job or, take what they've gotten from college and move into the next step of their career and what they want to do. And then I think that there's another percentage, I don't know if it's 10, but like there's a small percentage of people that are kind of like, well, do I want to take a break from everything now? Because I just like grinded for 4 years straight or whatever. Well, I guess in perspective, it's probably like, what do you say, like 16 years or whatever?
Yep.
With like school and everything else. Like now you're at a time where you don't have anything that you're committed to if you don't have a job already lined up. And you could be in a place where maybe you don't want to work. Maybe you want to just hang out and relax. And that's not like a bad thing, but I think that at the end of the day, like it has to be planned. Like planning out like where you want to go, because even if you want 3 months, 6 months to actually just like be rest, travel, hanging out with friends, doing those things, but at least you have like a time frame where you're like, okay, I know where I'm going to be going for the next like 6 months. This is what I'm going to be doing, but then after that, this is my next step. I think a lot of people might get out of college and they're like, I don't want to do anything yet, so I'm just going to hang out. So they just kind of get stagnant, and maybe they go home, live with their parents, or maybe they that's honestly most cases. If you don't have a job, you're not going to be living in an apartment with friends because you're not making any money, unless you somehow have a lot of money saved up, which is not the normal situation. And so, they'll go home, they'll hang out with family, and they might not know what they want to do, but they haven't like game planned anything. Like you were saying, like taking ownership for their life. For our entire lives, we've basically been told by our parents what we need to do. Go to school, do your homework, get good grades, or try your hardest, whatever. Do some sports activities, get involved, have some friends, those kind of things. And so you do that all the way up until high school. And then more often than not, it's usually family that wants you to go into college. Sometimes it's friends. They're like, yo, you should come to this college and do this thing. But more often than not, when you're thinking about it, a lot of influence comes from parents that are saying like, hey, you should pursue your next education. And sometimes parents will offer to pay for it, and they'll give you, some incentive for like, I want you to take this next step in life. Other times parents can't afford it. And so then you have to kind of make that decision for yourself if you want to get loans out. So some people kind of get an experience with having to make those like decisions themselves. But for the most part, we've never really like had a season where we weren't committed to something, and now you have to make those decisions for yourself and what you're going to do. And so learning to make those decisions and game plan out is huge. Figuring out what you think is best for you in that time frame. Obviously, don't get lazy and do nothing and like not bring glory to the Lord and waste away potential that you have, or lose the momentum of what you were gaining through college simply because you don't feel like doing more work. Life's hard. Work is hard. Like it's going to be. But that doesn't make it an excuse for you to be like, I don't want to do anything now. But if you do feel that you want some rest for a time in a period, like that's fine. But like planning out what you're going to do and figuring out kind of like a step-by-step process, whatever that looks like, can really set you up for success of wherever you're trying to go in life. But that also gives you, maybe I would say for the most people, is if you still want to get a job in a specific like program or certain field and you didn't land that right out of getting out of college, like don't be discouraged that just wasted college and you didn't get it. Like be patient. Like sometimes jobs take time to get, but like get a job. Usually I would say, I would encourage people always try and find a job within the field somehow. So like for instance, Alyssa's about to graduate school for being an esthetician, and she might not be able to get her actual esthetician license for a few months if testing's backed up. So, you know, Alyssa could either A, throw a fit and be like, well, now I can't work for, you know, a place being an esthetician because I don't have my license yet. And so like, I feel like it was a waste of time or whatever. Or let's say randomly that this like field is not hiring, like you can't find a job anywhere for the specific job. But what she could do is that, or she could go and find like a spa and she could work the front desk, or she could work like a smaller job within the business, kind of like what a lot of people do in corporate jobs is they kind of start small, get involved, surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be around and be like, and then from there work your way through that and build up relationships and that kind of stuff. So that's another piece of advice that I'd give. For me specifically, when it came to what I wanted to do, I wanted to get into photography and weddings and stuff. So I surrounded myself with other guys that did photography, did corporate work, did contracting stuff, were creatives, and people that did weddings. And I watched lots of videos of people who did those things. And I just constantly spent time learning and being, I don't know if that's a word, apprenticed, but like being an apprentice under someone and just kind of learning from them just different traits about life and trade skills, so to say, to kind of like help me navigate into that position. So like whatever job you're trying to get, if you find something that you're kind of interested in, that it doesn't have to be like something you're passionate about either. I think that there's this like whole thing right now where it's like, find your passion and like go after that. And that's cool. I think that's awesome. But also like at the end of the day, even though it's your passion, it's still going to be work. And there's going to be days you're going to hate it. And there might be weeks where you don't like it. And there's going to be maybe months where you're like, I'm not in this thing. And if you're only going into that position or that job because of passion alone, and then that fire dies, then you're going to be someone that's quitting, finding a new passion, pursuing that, quitting, finding a new one. You're just going to be riding the roller coaster all day long. Like it's going to be hard. Passion is great, but I see that as like the same as motivation versus discipline. And I think that what you should look at is like, where do you have skills at? Where has God given you skills to do certain things? Are you really good at communicating? Are you really, really good at like hands-on organization? Are you really good at leadership? Are you really good at, learning skill traits fast? Are you good at the creative side of things? Whatever it is you feel like you are good at, like that's something that I think the Lord has already kind of shown you, hey, like this is something that I've gifted you with. You should kind of pursue something around this and kind of navigate that instead of just looking for something that you're passionate about. Those things can be exciting. They can be hobbies, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all job for yourself. Because passions and interests change so much. What I used to be passionate about 3 years ago, I'm not as passionate about today. And if I picked a job based solely on my passion instead of just something that I knew that I was good at, I probably would be like 4 jobs in right now to something else that I would have no idea about that I'm kind of passionate about or whatever. So avoid the word passion, look for things that you are skilled at or that you have interest in and pursue that and just kind of go down that. And again, I love what you said about 4 or 5 years, you're still in your 20s. Like we're still so young and have time to make decisions. I mean, Gary Vee, one of like the most profound entrepreneur type speakers, is still encouraging guys in their like 50s that like it's not over yet. You can still do what you dream of. Like there's this weird unspoken like, oh, it's over. I've already gotten married, had kids. I can't do the things that I wanted to growing up. It's like there's never a too late moment for you to choose to go and do something else. So don't be afraid of making mistakes, going somewhere, working somewhere, and realizing like, oh, I guess this isn't really for me. Like this isn't something I wanted. And then being discouraged that you wasted that time. I think that there's a lot of benefits that you can learn from wherever you are, but that comes with mindset and making the most of it. Because if you go into it and then leave thinking, I wasted all my time on this. I can't believe I, went to this stupid place. I feel like I got nothing out of it. Like, sure, if that's what you believe, or you can, take a second to reflect on it and think about what things did you learn actually from it. And take those things and run with that and then go to the next thing and just keep making decisions and do it where God's at the center of it. And it's not just selfish ambition and drive for ego, pride, money, success, those kind of things that build us up. But like giving to the Lord and trusting him and saying, hey, like I might want to make a decision in this. Lord, like if this is something that, you want me to do, grant me peace. If it's something that you don't want me to do, then speak to me in that. But either way, like I want to give this to you and I'm going to make this decision, but I trust you in this, and just see where that goes. And God's going to honor that. And he's going to be like, hey, you can't make, there's not like one specific decision you have to make that's the right way that God wants you to coming out of college for what to do. And if you don't do that, he's disappointed in you. That's just a myth. So I wouldn't like put too much pressure on that, but definitely like take steps and take action and ownership to do something, because that's ultimately what matters most. Start making decisions and then learn from those decisions.
Yeah, I found that action provides clarity in my life. When I took a gap year, became a real estate agent, failed miserably. But because I did that, I learned that I liked marketing. I learned that I didn't really like being a real estate agent. And so that was like 6 months of my life. But by doing that, like not all was it wasted. Like I ended up at GCU because I did that, ended up getting a marketing degree because of that. So I found out what I enjoyed. And so it's okay to be like, oh, I'm going to pursue this career. I'm going to try being a real estate agent. I'm going to try being a graphic designer, a website developer. You can learn these skills in a relatively short amount of time, in a year or less, and try it. And you can fail miserably. You can do really bad. You can be unsuccessful, and it'll take you to the next thing.
Yeah.
Amen, brother. Praise the Lord.
Very nice.
Sweet. Well, we hope this podcast was helpful for you guys in some way. And if you aren't graduating college and maybe you're in a different position of life, but you know someone who is, we would highly encourage you to share this podcast with them, because it could be helpful to them in their time of life right now. But either way, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being on this episode. You can like this and rate this on Shop.
My
Yes?
bad. That's my bad. Nah, just...
Bachelorette Bash Boy. You can like it on Spotify, I believe, but you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch us on there. And if not, follow us on social media. Ask Us Why with 2 Ys, or Ask Us Where. Check out our merch. We just restocked our Fishers of Men hats. I guess this is going to come out a couple weeks from now. What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Stop.
He's doing the thing again. He's doing the thing.
Oh, no.
Can we just take it back to that moment? You just draw in circles for about 30 seconds.
What did I say?
I don't remember, because no one cared. We were just looking at you drawing circles.
I said something.
You did say something. I'm sure it was great, but whatever it was, we were fully distracted by.
It was terrible. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, in the past.
It's worthless. It wasn't worth it.
Stupid. Nah, but anyways, you can support us through our shop. It'd be dope. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for being on the podcast. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.